I don't know about you guys, but there is a phrase for me that is synonymous with NFL football, and that is none other than Hank Williams Jr. Are you ready for some football? And it is now that time of year. It is week one. It is official. And today is the day where the NFL season starts. And I just got to ask everyone out there, are you ready for some football? I'm your host, Matthew Raridan, and this is Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. I'm your host, Matthew Raridan, and with me today is my good old trusty co-host, Ed Smith.
Welcome, y'all.
And once again, we have Thaddeus Lloyd with us today.
Hey.
And just like I said, guys, asked you, are you ready for some football? I'm pretty sure I know the answer for you two here, but you guys out there, are you really ready for some football? Because, well, it finally is here. It's finally going to be taking place. And there are several key primetime games that we really want to get into because, well, they are primetime for a reason. And I feel like they should be talked about. But I could talk about any football game that's going to be happening this weekend because it is week one. It is what we've all been waiting for. But I want to go ahead and dive into this first game here because this is the game that we're all going to be tuning into tonight, and that is the Baltimore Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs. This is a rematch from last year's AFC Championship game. And no, it does not have the same implications as it did then, but it is still an official week one matchup. This is not preseason. This is week one where every regular season game counts. And this game here, what are the expectations, Ed, that you have for this game?
My expectations is to praise the schedule makers for making this the opening kickoff game of the season. This is 5-star, shiny, bright lights. This is the matchup that we all want to see as the first game of the season. And here we are. So, what I expect to see within the game itself, let's see. We've got two of the best quarterbacks. We've got a defense that is three deep on the back end against an offense that is majorly three deep on the wide receivers or pass catchers end of it. We've got great running backs. We've got great pass rushers. We've got everything that you want to see in this game. But as far as oh, and let's not forget the coaching. These are two of the premier coaches in the NFL going at it on the biggest stage, Thursday Night Football opening night. Now, as far as getting down to some of the more specifics, I expect to see the Kansas City Chiefs come out and show who they're going to be this year. They are going to be more explosive. They are going to be more in sync, which is frightening for the rest of the league. I was thinking earlier today that there's a possibility if Xavier Worthy is coming along as quickly as he appears to be amongst all the clips that you see coming out of their camp, that this team could lose maybe 1 to 2 games all season, and you're not going to be able to you know, delay the inevitable. They become Thanos at that point. Which is ironic considering Thanos is purple and they're playing the Ravens. So, but on the flip side, Lamar, he's got to show out as to why he deserves to be in this conversation of elite quarterbacks. Because against Patrick Mahomes, He is 5. He is 1-5. So that is something I think he needs to get over uh, and out of this game, so they can springboard their new look offense with Derrick Henry in the backfield moving forward.
Yeah, this is a big game because, well, the matchmakers made it that way, just like you said, Ed. It couldn't have been more perfect to have this game. I mean, if you wanted it maybe more perfect, maybe the Niners and Chiefs, because that was what the Super Bowl was. But this right here, being the Ravens at the Chiefs, is a really big game in itself, and it's such a great week one and opening kickoff matchup that the expectations are going to be high on this game, especially from a viewer standpoint. But Thaddeus, I want to ask you, and this may be a tough question to ask, especially with it being week one, but who needs this game more? Who needs to win this game more between these two teams?
I think that's actually an obvious answer, and that would be the Ravens because they want to come out. They lost the championship last year, and what did they not do in that game? They did not run the football. And now with the acquisition of Derrick Henry, you should expect them to run the football actually. And so they need to show that they're different than last year. They thought about it and they're like, we're going to change it up. We are going to stick to our identity, which what we are as a running team, and we're going to see if we can win this game by just running it down the Chiefs' throats, which we did not do last year. And it's more so though that the Chiefs don't need this game. Last year, the first game of the season was also the first game was the Chiefs versus Lions, if y'all remember, and that was an inconsequential game because the Chiefs lost their first two games of the season, but it didn't really matter because what mattered was they won in the playoffs. So the Chiefs kind of have a slow start to their seasons in a way. They heat up really toward like October and November, and definitely in January. So I really feel like this is more a game for the Ravens to win, that need to win this game, than the Chiefs do.
And to piggyback on your point there, Thaddeus, with the way that the Ravens want to run the football now, I've seen many teams in the past give a thunder and lightning type running offense as different style running backs that go in and out of the game. This is actually an offense that has thunder and lightning on at the same time, with Derrick Henry just pounding the ball, but Lamar Jackson, he is just pure lightning in a bottle, and to have both of them on the field at the same time, that's going to create so many problems defensively for anybody that plays them this year, not just the Chiefs.
Yeah, thunder and lightning for sure. And correct me, Ed, if I'm wrong. This was many years back, but when Michael Vick was with the Falcons, was it Warwick Dunn? Was he the running back in the Falcons then? I want to say that Michael Vick had a big running back at one point, similar to a Derrick Henry to Lamar's Michael Vick.
Warwick Dunn was not very big in stature.
Yeah, and I could have it wrong. I'm not sure, right?
Jamal
Well, Jamal Lewis was with the
no,
Ravens.
Jamal Williams, no, gosh, we're talking 20 years ago.
I know, I'm drawing
Yeah,
a blank. I'm just trying to think for a comparison
yeah, that
because
sounded right. And yeah, it is 2006. Yeah, was work done.
okay,
He
okay.
rushed for 1,100 yards
Because Lamar
that season.
Jackson will have someone who could take kind of a little bit of a load off him of having to run it, so much during the game, but hopefully keep it to a worst case scenario where Lamar's running in emergency situations where, of course, his legs are always a weapon and his arm too. But this is going to be an interesting game. And the odds makers have this too. Odds are subject to change, but right now, the Chiefs being just a 3-point favorite, I expect it to be a close game. And we are talking, it's iron sharpens iron here because you have two of the top quarterbacks, two of the top coaches, two of the top kickers. The list goes on of iron sharpening iron between these two teams. It's insane how a lot of their players are top in the NFL and coaching staff too. Baltimore did have some coaching changes, so that's something to keep an eye out on. But uh, let's talk kind of predictions here because this is opening day where they're going to be unveiling their uh, championship flag. They're going to be unveiling the Super Bowl, rings at home at Arrowhead. How can you not pick the Chiefs here? Well, this guy is going to pick the Ravens because this is a new look Ravens offense, and yes, we have yet to see it fully in action, but I think that the Ravens, they do tend to start out strong. That's one thing, as being a rival of mine in the AFC North. Baltimore does start out strong, and I expect them to start out strong this year, and they're going to need to. Uh, yes, this game does mean more to them, but I don't think it means as much as a lot of people think because the Ravens want to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs when it matters the most. Of course, a win is a win. We are all fine with wins every day of the week. And so that's why I think Baltimore is gonna this will mean more to them, especially losing last year. But I feel like Baltimore is going to be more hungrier. They're going to look different, and this isn't the playoffs. If this is the playoffs, I'm picking the Chiefs 10 times out of 10. All right, but this is the regular season here, where I think Baltimore is going to have their number this year. I think Lamar is going to finally get another win against Patrick Mahomes, but in the end, it's not really going to matter as much as a playoff win would be. So I'm picking Baltimore in this game. I'd like to hear your guys' opinions too.
I hear what you're saying, and I get where you're going with that. However, I am going to go with the Ravens to match up with you, more so because as we have seen since the advent of the 3-game preseason, to start a season, defense matters more than the offense because it takes time for the offense to get fully in sync. And for that reason, with the fact that the Ravens have had one of the most rock solid defenses in the league ever since Harbaugh showed up there, I I believe in them more in the early part of the season than I believe in the Chiefs defense in the early part of the season. Keep in mind, the Chiefs defense is notoriously bad at run defense, but they're great at pass rush. So when you're talking about playing a team that is great on the defensive side of the ball and can get you a few stops, but wants to run the ball, and their identity this year has to be to run the ball against a fair to poor run defense, you've got to go with that team at this point, and I'm taking the Ravens. Thaddeus?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you guys. I'm also going to take the Ravens. Maybe Steve Spagnuolo has fixed this defense. Maybe they will be able to stop the run. But until they actually show that, I'm I think I'm going to take the Ravens, especially if they're going to stick to the run as well. I just think the Chiefs' defense is still, in my opinion, it's probably still a top 7 defense for me. But the Ravens' defense is also top 5 for me. And both offenses are incredible. You got the Chiefs with their receiving core, and then you got the Ravens with the running ability. It's going to be a very fun match to watch from all 4 phases, all 4 sides of the game. But I do think this will be a slightly higher scoring game. I think I'll have the Ravens winning here, 31-24.
Yeah, and let's also keep in mind, L'Jarius Sneed, Kansas City's top cornerback, departed, went to Tennessee. Maybe something to keep an eye out on, even though we fully expect Baltimore to be running the ball. But Steve Spagnuolo, we know that when it comes playoffs, Steve Spagnuolo's defense is always ready then. So that's when his defense is at its very best. And this isn't the playoffs. So that's another reason why I'm going with the Ravens.
You'll get no argument from me on that one.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Brazil. I've never been to Brazil. The NFL's never been to Brazil until now. We are very fortunate enough to not only have a game Thursday, but we are also having a game Friday as the Green Bay Packers take on the Philadelphia Eagles in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Uh, any Brazilian fans out there that watch this show, you will not be able to tweet, I hear, because, well, Twitter and or X, however you want to call it, in Brazil is, I think, no longer a thing. But this will be a fun game to watch. The reason why this is going to be a fun game to watch, not only because it is taking place in, well, somewhere the NFL has never been, but this game, believe it or not, is going to have some implications because these two teams aren't in the same division, but they are two powerhouse teams that we expect to be in the playoffs that could very well be the number 2 seed behind the Niners. I'm just going to say that right now because for now, the Niners will be the front runners until I'm proven wrong. And the Packers and Eagles can be battling out for a tiebreaker spot for that number 2 seed. I, yes, you have Dallas. I don't want to argue against that because of what Dallas did last year. But the Eagles, if they could get back to the form they were in when they went to the Super Bowl just 2 years ago, I think that they will be competing for that number 2 spot with the Green Bay Packers. Of course, I have to turn this over to Ed here just to get his input. But do you see this kind of being a possible tie-breaking seeding game?
I believe that it is going to be a game that could count toward tiebreakers for who gets the home field advantage before they have to make the trip out to the West Coast.
Mhm.
That's more the point because there's only one team that gets a bye in the playoffs with the current format, and to have the home game in the rounds before you have to make the trip, that is huge. So being able to come out of this, what for most people would be a vacation, but this is a work trip for these guys, and to be able to come out of this, I can't even say exhibition, this regular season opener overseas, to have to come back to the states with a win in hand against another top opponent in the NFC, that is going to go places when we get toward week 17, week 18. What do the stands look like? What does that NFC record against the NFC record look like as far as those tiebreakers are concerned? Because I don't see a whole lot of difference at the end of the year between these two teams, especially if Philadelphia can come together. They fell apart last year. So this is their road to recovery, their road to redemption, if you will, back into the good graces to be that same team that went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. As far as Green Bay is concerned, it's keep the train moving. We've got some new parts. Uh, Moving on from Aaron Jones after an injury-filled year, we pick up Josh Jacobs and AJ Dillon. He's out, and unable to come back for the year. So there may be, uh, I don't know if he's going to come back at all at this point. But when you're talking about this game specifically, Green Bay has such an ability to spread the ball to everybody on the field. It's going to take all 11 guys on Philadelphia's defense to cover. And I don't know if they can do that for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, this is a question that I'm gonna have for Thaddeus here, and Ed, you chime in after I get Thaddeus's answer here. But with what Ed just said, you see this Green Bay team with how they ended the season. We saw what this Eagles team did last year, and it was not the expectation we had. Why is it right now that Philly is the odds-on favorite to win this game? Thaddeus, your take on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, the Eagles, they look. A lot of people are just going to look at those first 11 games. Absolutely fantastic. You only had one loss that entire time. And people are like, I guess Vegas might be saying you're looking at the odds and like, well, those last 6 games and that one playoff game were kind of a fluke. So I could see them looking at that because the Eagles do have a top 5 roster. Like the roster is incredible. The only weakness I can see is their linebacking and secondary. Other than that, their offense is top notch. All their weapons are top notch. The line is great. The defensive line is also great. So I can see why they would be the favorites in this game, but yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I think I'd rather take the Packers over here because they're so deep at receiver. They're super young, they're super deep, and they're facing against a really old Eagles secondary like James Bradbury and Darius Slay. They're old. They're both over 30 years old now. So, and they were in, maybe it was age, maybe it was just the funk of the late season collapse, but they started looking really old last year. So I think I'm going to take the Packers for this one.
And Green Bay also with the addition of Xavier McKinney too. I know that might not be a big splash to some, but with a secondary now having him, and if you could get a Jair Alexander back to that form that we are used to seeing him at too, that helps their defense out even more. And we know what their offense can do with how well they spread the ball, like Ed said. So I don't see it's supposed to be a close game. It's only a 3-point Philadelphia edge, but it just made me wonder with how the season ended last year, why Green Bay wouldn't be the favorite.
Now, I think the reason why, one of the reasons why Philadelphia is getting the benefit of the doubt is the X factor that they picked up at running back, Saquon Barkley.
Mhm.
They are expecting him to be the playmaker out of the backfield to take the pressure off of Jalen Hurts. So Jalen Hurts can concentrate a little more on getting the ball down the field to these playmakers, uh, Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. So that's where I can understand they think Philadelphia is going to do better, but being a Packers fan, I'm going to be a bit of a homer on this. I think the Packers win on this in this game because they have the consistency and they're not plugging in new players that change the offense.
You know, one of the things that we have yet to talk about, we did last episode, and I want to say Thaddeus actually brought this one up, but the departure of Jason Kelsey, that is not an easy position to replace. Me being a Steelers fan, I saw it with Marquise Pouncey. I've seen it many times before. It is hard to replace a center, especially the caliber that he was, being an all pro. It is a very hard position to replace, and those are hard shoes to fill. And with that being said, although Saquon Barkley is a great running back, uh, you are going to rely on that offensive line to create those holes for you to dig in the trenches, and replacing Jason Kelsey is going to be tough to do that. So there is going to be an adjustment there. They still do have a good offensive line, but you are missing one of your greatest players. So, if you are like me, you're eager to watch this game because it is, it's on a Friday night. That's great. You don't see that often anymore.
That was
And
weird. I figured that I saw this yesterday. I was like, wait, a Friday
yeah,
game?
Friday
Where did this
night.
come from?
Yeah, and it's the first week of football. Well, if you really want to watch this game, you're gonna have to subscribe to Peacock. Here we go again. All right, you want to watch NFL football? You want to watch college football? Subscribe to Peacock because, well, it's the only way you're gonna be able to watch this game. No, they are not a sponsor to us. This is more of a joke that I'm playing here because, well, not everyone has Peacock. Not everyone's subscribed to that. I miss the good old days where Fox, CBS, you watch your games on that, or uh, ABC, NBC. I don't know, but now we have all these different streaming platforms where, depending on the night it falls, or whoever may, it could be on Apple TV, it could be on Peacock, it could be on whatever. So, if you want to watch this game, make sure you subscribe to Peacock. But I know Ed will be watching this game, and it's his team. I mean, why would you not? So, uh, this next game here, this one's an
Oh, can I make
yeah,
a score prediction? Is
yeah.
that I think the Packers will win 24-20. I think both defenses will clamp down. No, the offenses will start off really slow,
Mhm.
but then the defenses, they'll soften up a little bit. But I think the Packers will pull it out
Yeah, so I mean, I think the three of us
in
once
a close
again
one.
have the same
Yep.
team. So yeah, we got the Packers, all three of us there. This next game though, it's the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. And normally I'm like, anytime the Browns play, I'm picking against them. We'll talk more about it, but gosh, I dislike both these teams. I dislike both of them a lot. Uh, you're having a new look, somewhat Cleveland Browns team. If with Deshaun Watson, I say that even though he's been there for 2 years now, he hopefully can play a full season. And the addition of Jerry Judy, uh, Cleveland's quietly got a great offense. I mean, with having Jerry Judy, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, eventually once Nick Chubb comes back too. So it is going to look a little different for this Cleveland team with the addition of Jerry Judy and without Nick Chubb there at running back. Dallas, however, and this is probably the biggest question in this game is how's this offense going to look? CD Lamb was holding out or holding in this offseason, this training camp, and he got his contract finally. But how's it going to look to kind of be up to speed on these things? Because I feel like it does matter. Yes, CD Lamb has all the talent in the world, but it's rebuilding that chemistry from the offseason. It's learning new plays. There's a lot of things that add up, and how's it going to look, and how's the demeanor going to be? Because Dak Prescott, as we know, didn't get his contract. Michael Parsons didn't get this contract either. We know he will, but how's the demeanor going to be? So that's something to kind of keep an eye on there. So Ed, will the timing of this offense be there with that lengthy hold CD Lamb had?
I think the timing will be there for a quarter and a half. And I say that because CD Lamb is not in football shape at this point, unless he had just one of the most rigorous uh, out of training camp uh, type workouts for the past 2 months. Because when you're holding out, you are not getting the same level of activity that gets you ready for the cuts, the physicality, the endurance that it takes to make it through the season, through the first few games, especially. So I would say, especially in this offense that requires CD Lamb to be the playmaker on the outside, he is going to be the one in motion. He's going to be the one that stretches the field. He's going to be the one that runs through the middle of the field. He's going to be the blanket. He's There's so many things that he is to this offense that they are going to wear him out by halftime because they're going to try and feed him the ball to, I don't know if the term is to validate his contract or to make it look like he's getting what he deserves. But this is the same exact situation that I have seen year after year after year where the wide receiver or skill player that has held out winds up getting injured because they are pushing their bodies way too far, way too fast because they were not part of the training camp that they were supposed to be in for the last 2 months.
Yeah, and I'm going to add something here, and this, actually isn't a correction, but I saw a report earlier about the shape that CD Lamb's in, how buff he is, and all that, and And you may hear that and think, okay, well, Ed's wrong here because Ed said he's, not in shape. There is difference between, being in body shape and being in football shape, because I guarantee you CeeDee Lamb will be on some type of snap count come this game, because he hasn't been playing in a live atmosphere. He hasn't been playing. He could be running, he could be doing routes, while he was holding out, which I'm sure he did, but it's not fully preparing him for what is to come during a live game scenario. So I do expect uh CD Lamb to be on some type of snap count, because Dallas knows that he could get hurt just like that because of how much he sat out. He was not a participant. So he's not in that football shape. He may be in the greatest shape of his life physically, but when it comes to being in football shape, there is a difference. And I am with Ed here that I don't think he'll be fully in that readiness that we're used to seeing with him. Thaddeus, what are your expectations for this game? We'll go both teams here, because we do need to talk about the Browns with Deshaun Watson coming back. What are your expectations going into this game?
Yeah, so it's interesting. That's very interesting with CD Lamb because I would agree with you guys for the most part. Like I believe that he's probably not in football shape. He hasn't been getting hit or being physical against someone. And it would make sense because they're playing against the Browns defense, who last year was one of the best and most physical defenses in the entire league. They have two excellent top shelf corners. And that's going to be really tough because, well, yeah, he hasn't practiced basically in 2 months and he's going to be going against those physical corners. However, I would have one buff against that, and that would be because he's pretty much Dallas's main option when it comes to offense because they lost Tony Pollard. Now they have the 2018, let someone call it the 2018 fantasy dream running back room with Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott. And well, but now they're old and mostly washed.
Yeah.
So that's not really an option. Michael Gallup isn't there anymore. Brandon Cooks is still an option, but he's not going to be like a main factor like he used to be. And their tight end is actually good,
Yeah,
but
Ferguson.
not. Yeah, Ferguson. Jake Ferguson is a pretty solid tight end, but he's not getting a lot of volume as CD Lamb is. So they're gonna. I feel they're still gonna try and force feed him the ball for at least 3 quarters, and because I don't think they want to lose this game. Like they want to show the world, hey, the Cowboys, we're still one of the best regular season teams. um, so that's what I think about CeeDee Lamb. As for the game, well, opposite side though, we got to look at the Browns. I think the question is, about the big one is Deshaun Weinstein, as some people call him. But Deshaun Watson, I don't. A lot of people think now he's probably washed by now. I don't know. I think this might be the last year to prove he can at least try to get back to like his 2019 form. It'll be interesting to see. This is probably the last chance for him for that. But even if he's average, um, this still should be a really good offense. Nick Chubb will be reduced, but actually no, Nick Chubb's out. That's right for half the season.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Jer-
he'll be. They got is
Jerome
it
Ford is
Jerome Ford? Yeah.
yeah is he should be a good back in my opinion. And the offense runs through the running back,
Hmm.
so I think it should still be a good offense. Amari Cooper's still there, so um, yeah.
It's this is interesting for the Browns, because I think this is the last year the Browns have to really prove to the NFL that they're for real. The reason I say that is because just a couple years ago, when they had OBJ, Jarvis Landry, they did have Kareem Hunt there in addition to Nick Chubb. This was the place that they were labeling that if you're in the NFL, you're a top free agent. This is where you want to be. This is where you want to come play, and that has slowly changed. You've seen the departure of both OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt as well, and now here comes that question. Do If you're a free agent, do you really want to come to Cleveland? Because, well, we saw Brandon Ayuk. I'm just using this as an example with that whole fiasco was Cleveland had an offer up there and he didn't want it. He did not want to come to Cleveland. Granted, I don't know where he really wanted to go. I don't think he knew where he wanted to go, but uh, it wasn't Cleveland. He made that clear. I mean, there was at one point where Amari Cooper even had a tweet out there that he wanted out. So Cleveland's on their last leg of really trying to show the NFL that we're for real. This is where you should come. So they're in a unique situation here, similar to Dallas, because no top free agents went to Dallas either, nor did they, have a good draft. So I think these two teams are close to being on that same collision course of their future here. But Dallas, being Dallas, will always have the edge because they are the so-called America's team, and everyone loves the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Dallas the edge here because, like Thaddeus said, they are the regular season warriors. They show up in the regular season when it does not matter the most. Thaddeus, you got a prediction here and possibly a score prediction?
Yeah, I'm going to take the opposite approach. I think Browns are going to win. It's just that defense is too good, especially the first last year, the first 8 games, 8 or 9 games, they were historically dominant. They were incredibly good. And I think the Browns defense will win them the game. Even though the Cowboys offense, is high powered, they did lose a little bit, and I don't know. I just feel like even with a mediocre Deshaun Watson, the Browns offense will be able to score enough points to win the game. It'll probably be low scoring, but as you know, AFC North games are, when they play opponents normally. But I'm gonna give the Browns the edge. Give them a 17-14.
Yeah, I'm expecting a pretty low scoring game. Kind of like actually the game last year where my Steelers and Browns played, and that's when Nick Chubb went down with the injury. I mean, that was a defensive only matchup. The offense was optional that game because
Yeah.
it was
Was that
horrible.
the one where like there's like 3 or 4 defensive touchdowns in the
Yeah.
game?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that was fun to watch actually.
Yeah, that was a crazy. I was losing at that game, but that's how I'm expecting this game to be, is that it's gonna be defensive only. So, Ed, now that we got you back, prediction for the Browns and Cowboys game.
I'm going to be taking the Browns in this game. If for no other reason, I think that the turmoil of such a long offseason, as well as the just inconsistency of the organization, kind of weighs on a team when you first get the season started. I feel like the Browns have been a lot more consistent going into this season and not relying on somebody that just showed up to camp a week ago to carry their offense uh, as a in a playmaking form. You've got Deshaun Watson. He's going to have three good pass catchers as options out there with Amari Cooper, Jerry Judy, and Njoku. And I think that's going to be enough to just get them over the edge on this one. So I've got them somewhere in the 27-24 range for this game.
Yep. Oh, there's our first difference there. First two games we were in agreement. This last game differed, so that's going to be one to pay attention to. But this next game is actually probably one of my favorites of this weekend, and I know you may think I'm weird for this, but it's the Rams and the Lions. This is a reunion game. This is Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit, and playing his old team, and Jared Goff playing his old team. Doesn't get any better than that. Uh, you know, with me, why this is also another one of my favorite games is we're gonna see if this Detroit Lions team is the real deal. They had a great year last year. Can they replicate that going into this year? And we're going to see that going into week 1. I know this Rams team isn't who they used to be with when they had Aaron Donald there, because he did retire. Jalen Ramsey as well, where they had such a great defense. But the Rams, if healthy on offense with Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Cup, that is insane right there. Just those two receivers alone, especially the rookie year that we saw Puka Nacua have. So this is going to be a test for Detroit week 1. And that's why I'm excited about this, is because they're going to be tested right off the bat if their last year was a fluke or not. So I really want to see that. So for me, the expectations going into this game is, can Dan I almost said Dan Lanning, sorry, go Ducks. Can Dan Campbell continue to do what he did last year and have his soldiers in line? Because that's one thing that I loved seeing with their success last year, was what Dan Campbell did for his players, the relationship he had, and he had his soldiers in line. And the thing is, they would go to bat for him. They would go to war for him, and that's the relationship you want to see with your coach and your players. It doesn't get any better than that. So my expectations is going into this game, I want to see that again. I want to see this year be the same thing as last year, because the last year was such a great success for them. And yes, they lost in the playoffs, but who knows what could have happened. So that's why I want to see this continue and see what eventually could blossom into something bigger for Detroit. So my expectations are that, and Matthew Stafford having a great homecoming game, and throwing for 300 something yards and getting his receivers into the game. I don't know if you guys want to add some expectations on what you have for this game. If you do, feel free to chime on in.
Thaddeus?
Yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be just like last year's playoff rematch, which I that was such a fun game.
Mhm.
Rams and Lions, and the Lions ended up pulling out in a close one. But again, I think it's gonna be a fun game. I do agree with Matt though. It is gonna be it's gonna be a bit of a loss with Aaron Donald. Um, they're they're banking on Jared Verse to be really good. I don't know, but a lot of the consensus is the Lions' offensive line is the best in the league, and it probably seems like that. So I think the expectation, I think the Lions will win this one, although that Rams offense is looking very nice, and so I think it'll be another close one. But I think the Lions will be able to squeak out with this one with their also insane offense as well. I say 31-27 Lions.
Yeah, great
Yeah,
offensive line.
and when we're talking about the Rams offense, it we always kind of wondered what a team would look like if there were four Wes Welkers on the field. And I feel like the Rams offense is really trying to make that happen. Between Cooper Cup, Puka Nacua, they got Jordan Whittington from Texas in the draft, and he's turning into another one of those. That the Rams offense is just so scatty, if I can coin a word, uh, scatty when it comes to the wide receivers, that it's really hard to defend in that much space, because they're excellent route runners, they are great pass catchers, and they're fantastic on rack. So that's where they get a lot of their play. And with Matthew Stafford, he is he still wants to show that he is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in this league. And I don't know how anybody can doubt him, especially when he's got wide receivers that are helping elevate his play while he's out there in LA. But we're also talking about a Lions team that could possibly have two 1,000-yard rushers in the same backfield. That's going to be a challenge for anybody to defend, on top of having a great tight end, on top of having one of the most versatile wide receivers that we have in this league in Amon-Ra St. Brown. the tight end being Sam Laporta. The that that dual threat running back situation of David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs. These are all guys that a defensive coordinator would have to account for on every play. Well, guess what? All four of those guys are going to be on the field at the same time. No defensive coordinator can account for all four of those guys at the same time. So I'm going to take the Lions more because of the loss of the interior defense that they have over the offseason than anything else, because Jared Goff is going to have time, and if he has time, he's got weapons, and his weapons are going to shred the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be going with the Lions here as well. It's going to be tough being able to guard all of that. Jamison Williams, Amon Ross, St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and then of course the dual threat at running back situation there. That is going to be very tough to cover for any NFL team, let alone the Rams. The Rams. One of the questions being asked here is, are they ready for prime time? And well, yeah, when you had a season like Puka Nakua had last year, and then Cooper Cup the season that he had, 2-3 years ago, uh, yes, they're ready for that. But this is more so of they're playing the Lions, and the Lions are ready for prime time, and that's why this game is going to be a prime time Sunday night football game, and it should be a game that you should tune into, absolutely, because this is a rematch from last year, and who knows? Matthew Stafford could just ball out and flip the script. But I think with what the Lions did last year, they should rightfully be there and be a team that you should watch. So I'm going Lions as well. I think we're all three in agreement here with the Lions winning this game over the Rams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, pay attention to that game. And I mean, right now the Lions are the odds-on favorite to win this game. So I guess Vegas is in agreement with us as well. Last but not least, no, I did not forget about Aaron Rodgers. Um, this is the New York Jets and the San Francisco 49ers. And yes, it wouldn't be the same to not talk about the Niners. This is a team that defending NFC champs here, and such a fitting game for the Jets and Niners to be playing here. All I know is they better do one bang up job on that tape job for Aaron Rodgers' Achilles, because he's gonna be on it a lot this tonight against Nick Bosa coming off the edge. It's not gonna be fun for him, and I hope that he is fully healthy, because this is not a team that you want to face coming back from an Achilles injury with no preseason experience at all. So this here is, well, the biggest expectation, the biggest question mark is, what will the Jets look like with the healthy Aaron Rodgers? Ed, you're going to have to answer this one because, well, you have the most experience watching Aaron Rodgers.
Well, given that Aaron Rodgers has the most opening day wins of any active quarterback in the league right now at 7, keep in mind he actually got credit for last year. Man, since he started the game.
Oh, yeah.
But let's just hope that he can be on the field for more than 4 plays, because when Aaron Rodgers is good, it's good for the league. It really is. Just because he has magic. Whether it's everybody else around him has magic too, that's going to be the question mark. But this roster that the Jets have is one of the best rosters in the AFC. That's why you pit them against the 49ers to start the season and put them on Monday Night Football. I mean, that's where the phrase came from. Are you ready for some football? And this is really a showcase for, you know, the the old grizzled vet and the new kid on the block, that type of thing. Although I think we're still going to call uh, Brock Purdy the new kid on the block until he gets paid, you know, for his services,
Yeah.
which I don't know if he is at this point. Uh, But Aaron Rodgers has some weapons around him, and he's got a defense around him. He's got things that can go right for him. In much the same way that the Cowboys are maybe asking too much of CeeDee Lamb to start the season, I feel like the 49ers could be asking too much of too many just coming back and getting back into the swing of things right before the start of the season. With Trent Williams coming back this week, Brandon Ayuk signing last week, and now Christian McCaffrey is now cleared to practice. That's a lot of pieces that have to come together that didn't go through a full camp together. So, with that in mind, I think there's a greater chance of the Jets actually pulling this one out and it not mattering in at the end of the season. This is just for one game.
Yeah, I'm gonna mention another quarterback here, Patrick Mahomes. I think we're all in agreement here with how easy he makes things look. There's only one quarterback that's currently in the NFL that makes it almost look easier, just easier, and that's Aaron Rodgers. When Aaron Rodgers is on and he's healthy, he makes football look easy. That's one thing that he's always been talked about with him being one of among the greats is because of how easy he makes football look. So that's what I want to see. I want to see, is this the Aaron Rodgers that can still make football look easy? Or is this the Aaron Rodgers where, well, age is up there and he is past that time? So that's one of the biggest questions I want to see answered. And I think we will see it answered within that first quarter. He's going to have to shake off that rust. He's going to have to shake off last year's injury. And he's going to have to pull the rabbit out of the hat and be the Aaron Rodgers that we used to see. And Thaddeus, the Niners being your team here, you've seen Aaron Rodgers plenty times, especially in the playoffs. This is not new to you guys, but the difference here, well, I mean, you faced the Packers last year, but the difference here is that
Yeah.
you've got your rent to own quarterback situation right now with Brock Purdy. He has yet to be paid, but Brock Purdy is being already labeled amongst the best in the NFL. Is this going to be another season that we see that with the Niners and him?
I really do think so. He's got all the weapons are still there. They're they're still old for the most part. Kittle's getting up there in age. Trent Williams is, but I still think this is going to be a top flight offense. Kyle Shanahan's still coaching. Uh, CMC miraculously didn't get hurt last year. He has not been hurt, or he hasn't missed like a lot of games since coming to San Francisco. So maybe it's something. Maybe he's been lucky on that part, but maybe his trend of good luck continues, good health continues, and if so, this has got to be a top flight offense. I think Brock will go for over 35 touchdowns this year. What's crazy is he was already good, like at least statistically last year. He still has room for improvement. Like he can still get even better. So I think it's prime. He's prime for another great season. Um, for that, for him individually. But as far as this game goes, I did notice that it's been a little bit of a trendy pick to pick the Jets to win because the Niners, all their players are just getting back this week and they haven't been playing together. Well, but what about Aaron Rodgers and doing his little Egyptian retreat? Has everyone completely forgot about that? He hasn't really. He missed a lot of the mandatory practices with that, so I think it's kind of funny uh, to point that out. But and then the second funny thing is that it's a Monday night game. Aaron Rodgers on the Jets versus Leonard Floyd. That's all that needs to be said. The man who tore his Achilles last year in the first game, and Zach Wilson isn't there to save the Jets this time if that happens again. As weird as that sounds. So but I just think the Niners. I will say it will be a close game. That Jets defense is really good. They've been playing together. Quentin Williams, I think, is primed for a really good year for the Jets. But I do have the Niners, pulling it together, 17-10. It's got to be a low scoring game, but I just think Trent Williams doesn't need the time with the whole contracts. Ayuk, maybe he'll be a little rusty, but Trent Williams is probably the best lineman of our generation. So those kind of guys don't need like a whole week's worth of practice. So I think he'll be just fine, and the offense will get it going in the second half. I think, but it'll still be a low scoring game.
Well, there's definitely a lot of drama that has surrounded these teams this offseason. Unfortunately, anywhere Aaron Rodgers goes now, there's always that center of attention drama. And with the Niners, with the Brandon Ayuk contract situation and the Trent Williams, there was drama that kind of circulated both these teams this year. So distractions were there for both of them. So it's almost like a clean slate going in. I'll label that there. I just feel like the Niners in the NFC will be the team to beat, and I think that they will take this game. But Ed, you'll like this question here, just because of the college football in us. But are we going to see possibly a kind of a Nick Saban like coaching tree where you're facing the pupil here, where we've seen in college football everyone who was on the Nick Saban coaching tree, anytime they go to face him once they leave, it is hard to beat him. Well, Robert Saleh, coming from the Niners, head coach now for the New York Jets, coming back in, can he take out old Kyle Shanahan?
I'm predicting that he can, because any team that has Aaron Rodgers on it doesn't really have a head coach. It has Aaron Rodgers and the rest of the coaching staff. So that's kind of where that sits in my mind. However, you do bring up a good point in the fact that Kyle Shanahan has been the master versus the pupils anytime he faces anybody that has been under his coaching tree. Case in point, Matt LaFleur. I think last I saw, he's like 4-1 against Matt LaFleur.
Yeah.
And here we are against Robert Saleh, and then you've got the other coordinators that
D'Amico
Shanahan
Ryans.
had. Yes,
Sean
you
McVay
know,
is also one technically, I think.
that's the one I was thinking about. Sean
Yeah.
McVay, you know, being his assistant in Washington,
Mhm.
uh, that is that does bring up a good point as far as the coaching. The master versus the pupils. Well, none of the pupils have exceeded the master at this point. So we'll see how that pans out this week. But like I said, this isn't necessarily Robert Sala's team anymore because Aaron Rodgers is there.
Sorry, did you say LeBron James? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, he's the coach, the GM, he's the Jackie Moon of the NFL.
Exactly. I think they got Alan Lazard for a washing machine.
Yeah. Yes, that is true there. So, it sounds like Ed is going with the Jets here, whereas me and Thaddeus are going with the Niners. So, little difference there, and I love it. I love it, and I want to hear what you guys have to say too, because these are just our opinions, our expectations, and I want to hear what your guys' opinions and expectations are as well, because it could be completely different than us. It can. You could be seeing something. You could be hearing something that we just did not see or hear, or you just got a hunch. Sometimes you just got a hunch that a player is just going to do phenomenal, or this team is going to shock everyone. So there are many other games that I wish we could talk about, because that's what we would love to do, but it would take a lot of time. So if there are some games that you think that we should be keeping an eye on, please let us know. I know for one, Joe Burrow coming back from injury. That's always something to keep an eye out on with the type of quarterback that he is. That's something to always see. Uh,
And
as
and Jamar Chase hasn't been signed either yet.
Yeah, he was at practice today, but I'm sure he'll play week 1, but that's another thing. All these players sitting out, they're gonna be rusty week 1. So, the list goes on and on. So something to keep an eye
Mhm.
out on, as we go into week 1. We may not see players coming in at 100%, which is so weird to think on a week 1. You would think some of them are healed and all that because as we know, the NFL season, you are not coming in 100%. You are banged up almost every game, usually except week 1. So that's something to definitely keep an eye out on. There's many other storylines. So if there's something that you think that we should keep an eye out on, put that in the comment section. But that's about pretty much all we have today as far as these games go. These predictions of ours. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Share these videos and let people know what you think about our little channel here. We are trying to grow, and we will grow with your guys' help. So we appreciate you guys doing that. But until next time, guys, we are rounding third, and we are headed for home.